the PMC Legion, Russia's other private armies.
They were a private army that surged into the...
I like this guy though. I really like this guy. He's like a counter to his history legends. And
light in 2020.
Yeah, that guy seems very educated and has good opinions. TommyKay private army, you guys have spaghetti arms. Most of you guys are overrated, okay? What army are we gonna do?
Shadowy, brutal, and utterly bloodthirsty unit that distinguished itself in the worst possible ways during Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. Before long...
Yeah, man, we should really interview young kids that really celebrate this mercenary unit. I mean, that's a great idea.
They were the source of some of the most compelling high drama of 2023.
What? Oh, Russian money? Oh, yeah, put it in my ass. Put it...
Tensions arising from that same attritional war exploded into a mad dash towards Moscow, guns blazing with a fate of
Prigozhin, man. Oh man, I almost tried to take over Russia. I shall really stay in Moscow and take a flight to St. Petersburg. What can go wrong? Toot, 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 toot. Yo, pilot, what's going on? Oh shit.
Dominant power hanging in the balance. Private military company Wagner, better known as the Wagner Group, has been Russia's biggest and most dangerous proxy force since it first appeared a decade ago, making its mark not just in Ukraine, but in Syria, Libya, and across sub-Saharan Africa.
Even Venezuela.
Anywhere they go today, their reputation precedes as an
that was the funniest day in history.
Fighting force that views everything from torture to assassination to rape to pillaging as just...
Yeah, man, really a great idol to have, man. We should really interview Grisha about his great effort with this amazing... Mamma mia.
Just another part of a day's work.
But even though the Wagner Group is the best known of Russia's private military companies, it's not the only one, and not by a long shot.
Across the past decade and a half.
Chad, if you would form a mercenary company, what would you call it? I will call it Aurora Corps. Now, I will probably call it the Varangia International. Varangia AKs and pump guns.
Moscow has found itself increasingly reliant on a wide range of mercenary groups, present in dozens of countries and more than happy to do the unsavory business from which the proper Russian military would rather stay separate.
What is this, a shitty Draynor Johnson movie?
Form a quiet, deadly shadow hand. So in today's episode of War Graphics, we're going to peer into Russia's spiderweb of phantom armies and try and gain at least some small insight into what's really going on in perhaps the most extensive mercenary network in the world. After the chaos and confusion of Russia's immediate post-Soviet years, Eurasia's northern neighbor settled somewhat under the firm hands and then the iron fist of one Vladimir Putin and company. Over the past couple of decades, Russia has taken pains to preserve its place as a global hegemonic power. It's maintained a strong influence in its neighboring post-Soviet states and been a close friend to pariah states like Iran,
that's CSTO, Korea, right?
Nicaragua, and Eritrea.
Meeting with the Council of Heads of the Shanghai SCOO. What is this? I think it's called the Shanghai Accord or some stuff.
With emerging powers such as China, India, and Brazil. Russia has made
that's not BRICS. No, that's not BRICS.
As if it's at the
Shanghai Cooperation Organization,
SCO, and cast itself in strong opposition to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, both in its rhetoric and in wars of expansion against its neighbors, Georgia and Ukraine.
It's an economic treaty.
Maintaining a geopolitical umbrella like Russia's takes a lot of work, and with Russia's tendency to cozy up to dictators and military juntas abroad while actively threatening its neighbors at home, a lot of that work is going to be rather unsavory. Now, for decades, that unfortunate reality has made Russia perform a sort of balancing act.
On the one hand, Russia wants to pursue its geopolitical goals with the partners of its choice against the enemies of its choice.
At the same time, Russia doesn't want to alienate major players that it gets along with and doesn't want to find itself in a conventional, or worse, a nuclear war with the US and the European Union if it doesn't have to.
Sorry guys, I still have the mega rona.
Regardless of what the Russian trolls, who are almost certainly in our comments section, would have you believe, Russia...
Where are you? Where are you guys? Where are you? Oh, this is gonna be so fun. Russia isn't going to attack the West. They're getting the shit kicked out of them by Ukraine. Can you mention France, England, or the US? Blah, blah, blah. It's true. Just how many fucking channels does this guy have? He knows his shit. Ultranationalists in any ethical white country are always Nazis? What? These are actually pretty normal. Cough, cough, BlackRock. These are not even that bad.
That has a lot more to gain by not engaging in a direct confrontation with the West, even if it believes that it would win such an engagement. Russia's key to walking that tightrope, at least thus far, has been the concept of plausible deniability. That is to say, it's very important that the nation of...
I'm so old. You know what these walls represent to me? The final mission in Command & Conquer Red Alert 2. That's what this represents to me for fucking 15 years.
Russia
That's what
and
this means to me.
Leaders are able to deny knowledge or responsibility around actions that benefit them, particularly when those actions involve,
this guy has a second channel?
Crimes against humanity or other nasty business like that. Russia is absolutely not the only nation to do this, by the way. The United States, the EU, China, and every other geopolitical player on Earth need plausible deniability too, at various times, for various reasons. But it's something that Russia is particularly interested in relying on because, again, they've got to do a really precise balancing act in order to pursue their goals while remaining a part of a cohesive world order. And that is where the private military company, or as we'll refer to them for the duration of the war, the PMC, enters the picture. For Russia, private military companies are the crux of their effort to preserve deniability, both in their...
That is kind of what, long story short, what you do with them, man. They can rape people, they can kill civilians, but you can be like, hey, they're not part of the official army, man. And it's very sad how everybody is like, oh, okay, sure, yeah.
Immediate region and around the world. If Russia, let's say...
But I feel like Russia has reached a level where it doesn't matter anymore. Just fucking kill civilians in Ukraine as you did. People know you did it.
It
just
has reason to protect
don't
the
need fucking mercenaries
of another nation.
We all know what you're up to.
Present the image of Vladimir Putin kissing them on live television, then it's a PMC, not the Russian military proper, who will form that dictator's personal bodyguard. If Russia wants to protect precious mines on another country's territory in the midst...
I don't know what Wagner's doing now. He'll probably talk about it. I heard that Wagner is reforming itself and Grisha will take them over. And Grisha is going to micro fucking hertz of iron shit and take down Ukraine fast, man. But then Zelensky goes, TommyKay, man, I heard you have tax issues. I give you 1 million and you're going to face Grisha in a HOI4 micro war. And then my son Grisha... My young boy, man, he will learn the old ways of the micro.
Of a civil war with a high civilian body count, then the people standing guard around those mines will be
For
Russian
real,
soldiers.
that was a real story, man. That's going to happen. What do you think?
And if Russia wants to train, let's say, a pro-Russian group of rebels for an insurgency attack against a Western-backed government, then it's not Russia's own military who's going to do that work, at least not officially. Instead, dear old Vlad will ring up his buddies in the private sector, give them some orders, and sit back and do his best Dr. Evil pose as the dirtier business gets done for him. As far as what precisely a PMC looks like, a soldier's mileage may vary depending on which PMC they become a part of. In most cases, they'll operate either outside of Russian territory on foreign soil or in parts of
What's the biggest PMC in the world? You guys tell me, what's the biggest PMC in the world?
Russia that are either strategically critical or under threat from a perceived enemy.
HOI4
They'll partner with both nation-states and non-state actors.
What is it?
They typically have a wide range of responsibilities related to warfighting.
Like what has renamed itself because they had a scandal, right?
Training to... well, actually fighting a war.
It is the G4S Security. G4S Security is a multinational security service company and is reportedly the biggest private military group in the world that has what is that number? 620,000 employees. Most of Wagner that was legit once and not the foreign signups or penal conscripts is forming into the Africa Corps and is going to Mali and CRA a lot.
Sometimes the goal is to operate
some sunscreen soon.
in a certain area for a long duration of time, while in other scenarios they're trying to get in and out of a hot zone quickly or train local forces who can carry
work for
on a mission
G4S. They are mall cops. So you say you were a mall cop? It's nothing bad. You have your own movie with Kevin James.
Their presence itself is one half of a direct exchange.
G4S is also boomer security guards at shopping
client state or protect a ruler from coups by dispatching a PMC. In exchange,
everybody with their AKs without any
sources, lucrative contracts, foreign labor,
without any
anything else they please.
English word.
Deployments can be as
like the red dot fucking flashlight grenade launcher, you know, that's what you need. Sites are expensive, probably.
Like Wagner has done in Ukraine, or as small as a dozen troops or less, depending on the mission objective and the demands of a given environment. As they accomplish their tasks, they're functionally unaccountable, not beholden to leaders back in Moscow, not to their hosts in a foreign country, certainly not to any internationally recognized rules or norms on the treatment of civilians. Murder of civilians, rape, torture, targeting of local journalists and humanitarian organizations, and occupation of civilian areas like schools and hospitals have all been observed frequently in the areas where PMCs operate.
Grisha! They're the best, man. When I was a kid, Grisha, I looked up to Son Goku, man.
These will often rely on easily defined groups from within Russian society. Aging military veterans, for instance, or ideological extremists who share a loyalty to a unifying set of beliefs. They're well armed, they're well equipped, they're financed either by the Russian
Son Goku. That was a German name of Goku from Dragon Ball.
State itself or by informal state affiliates like the Russian oligarchy, and critically, they're expendable. Finally, PMCs are actually illegal under Russian law. One last element of plausible deniability.
At 18, we'll go to frontline. Dude, all these Russians on the internet acting hard in Counter-Strike, man, they ain't going to no front lines, man. They're sitting home in St. Petersburg, Moscow, and let their moms suck their dicks.
For their actions.
They ain't doing shit.
After all, Russia couldn't possibly be using PMCs. I mean, they're illegal in Russia. How would that work? And look, at the time of writing, Russia's best-known PMC, by far, has been the Wagner Group. Although they now appear to be far more integrated into the Russian military, Wagner has historically operated as its own entity, serving Russian interests.
That's damn, they have a lot of money. What a fucking crazy house. That's where Grisha was streaming. They must have a lot of money, Jesus.
Under the direction of the now deceased oligarch, Yevgeny Prigozhin. Wagner made headlines internationally in the years prior to Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, taking a leading role in the insurgencies Russia propped up in Ukraine's western provinces, Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts. After the full-scale war began in 2022, Wagner played a major part in the hostilities, sometimes relying on their more experienced fighters and the former Russian special operations troops within their ranks, and sometimes relying on mass deployments of Russian prisoners, who were offered amnesty by the Wagner Group if they survived a few months as cannon fodder in Ukraine. But around the world, Wagner's work has been a lot less publicized. They protected natural resources and engaged in other
Wagner has a money hack from Africa. Makes sense, I guess.
Provided security to the leader of Venezuela, supported Libyan warlord Khalifa Haftar, and taken an active role in the Syrian civil war, even engaging in an unsuccessful direct attack on US forces in 2018. Now, we've covered the fall of the Wagner Group at length in other videos on this channel, but suffice to say that in the years of peak activity, the Wagner Group were the model of what Russian PMCs are believed to be. They're a versatile, experienced paramilitary unit able to fulfill a variety of service roles and support.
Look, I'm not a fucking genius. I don't know much about war. What I never understood in the Ukraine war, maybe you can help me, is why the fuck do they always have, like the Ukrainians, have these yellow weapons? I understand you want to not do friendly fire is a big thing in war. I understand friendly fire is important, right? And something to think about. But don't you want to have crazy camouflage going on, man? It's because of drones? I'm looking at a hedgerow, right? At a bunch of trees. And you're very unlucky. I will see the red or the yellow shine from all your shit you have everywhere. Isn't this ultra counterintuitive to camouflage? Friendly fire is more important than the camo in that case. I will guess so. That is probably the answer. They care less about camo. But I watch a lot of Ukrainian fighting footage, like real fighting footage, and so often I feel like, bro, he's right there. You can literally see the yellow shine through the tree, man. It's so dangerous.
A wide range of mission objectives.
But if I was to do that, I'm a bit weird. Maybe you guys are the same. I always imagine I'm in that war, right? Which I luckily am not. I think before every battle, I will take a bunch of mud and just go like this a bit and be careful. I don't go too far ahead or something.
Always acting in the interests of Russia, but never self-identifying as representatives.
I had a buddy who was fighting over there. Friendly fire is so bad. Friendly fire is bad in most wars, right? There's a lot of friendly fire all the time. Thermal cameras are too good anyway.
They're cheap, typically drawing most or all of them.
But when you watch these war videos from Ukraine, there is often man-to-man just fucking combat, right? Without any technology.
Funding from sources outside the official Russian government structure. When their soldiers find success, it's simply a happy coincidence that Vladimir Putin's interests are served, and when their soldiers die, there's no reason for those deaths to be reported to the Russian public. They're a private organization, after all, and everybody among their ranks signed the waivers before they started up. And it's those key distinctions that set apart the PMCs that we're discussing today. Now, the first PMC on our list was founded during or around the year 2008, an offshoot of an organization called Anti-Terror Orel. Founded by former members of Russia's Ministry of Defense, this splinter group has gone through a few names in its lifetime, but the one that we'll use to refer to it...
Dude, they have fucking Batman? Isn't that the Bacardi symbol? Bacardi! Wait. The Russians and the alcohol. Look! Bacardi. Dude, I'm telling you, every single PMC we see today is connected to some kind of alcohol, man. Swear to God.
Is Redut, Russian for
next is gonna be the Jimmy Walker.
Basically means a supplemental fortification of defenses. And in their early years, Reduts were just that, a supplement to the Russian military used to fortify their defenses against potential harm. Specifically, they did protection operations for Russian convoys traveling internationally, shielding them against ambush and attack from hostile forces without involving formal Russian soldiers, and they also looked after corporate real estate, military installations, and Russian diplomats, similar to how the American Blackwater Group has done in Iraq and Afghanistan. Among the most prominent clients was one Gennady Timchenko, an oligarch and former KGB officer who had oil interests in Syria that needed protecting during the Syrian civil war. Functionally speaking, they've been extensions of the Russian military, allowing Russian oligarchs to directly use the military service without actually soliciting those services from the military.
Russian TV, I think we've seen it already, it's old.
Redut has not been particularly big. The few detachments they had consisted of somewhere from 55 to 65 men each, and their weapons and transport came courtesy of the Russian military. But that changed when it came time for Russia to start making serious plans for its invasion of Ukraine. At the time, Wagner was Russia's largest PMC and was going to be a major player in the invasion, but Redut was brought in to take some of the stress off Wagner and handle some of the invasion.
Dude, I could never go to war. If I will be in this gear and it's over 24 degrees, I'm gonna sweat to death. I will never forget when I was in the army and I had to wear that stuff, man. I would have this disease I never had before. After a while, I can't explain this. That was many years ago, man. My body started to have really weird rashes because I would be sweating so much. My ass crack was so red all the time. I remember one time I was in the shower and my entire back was itching so heavy. I never in my whole life had such an itch. And I had to ask a friend. I was butt naked in the shower, right? And I asked the guy next door in the next shower. I'm like, dude, can you fucking... can you wash my back? It was hella gay, man. And he would take this very heavy brush that really hurts, and he would, and I will never forget that. I hurt so bad, bro. If there ever is World War III, I'm like, German armies, send me to the North Pole, man. Let me fight in the winter, which is probably really dumb.
Finer points, particularly as a joint investigation.
I remember we had this Kevlar vest in the German army. I would always have rashes from that shit.
Bellingcat, Der Spiegel, and The Insider, a Russian outlet, reported Redut was going to be responsible for the assassination of President Volodymyr Zelensky. Again, an important, nasty job, and one that Russia did not want to stamp with its official seal of approval. Redut's preparation for the job was not without controversy. They had been chosen by the deputy head of the Russian GRU, military intelligence, a general named Vladimir Alexeyev. He and his associates attempted to poach Wagner fighters and bolster Redut's manpower with the intention of making them into a formidable and knowledgeable enough force that they could storm Kiev and end Zelensky's life. As the joint investigation reported it, this ended up being a rather contentious topic between Alexeyev and Yevgeny Prigozhin, so much so that the two actually had a physical confrontation, but it wouldn't matter much. When Russia's attack on Ukraine stalled, Redut took shocking casualties as one of the advanced units that was supposed to be first on the scene, and in the following year,
Dude, imagine you are a fucking PMC, your entire existence is based on military strategy, and you get fucking wrecked, man.
The organization practically disappeared.
Thank you, FJ, for the tier 2, man.
That is, until after Yevgeny Prigozhin and the Wagner group attempted a mutiny. Wagner's unsuccessful march on Moscow left a vacuum in the Russian PMC space that, within just a couple of months, Redut was already working overtime to fill. Not long after the Wagner mutiny, Redut started actively recruiting again and even poached one of the Wagner...
Tommy is made to spread propaganda, not go to war. Since you're a streamer with a lot of influence, they could use you for propaganda. I said this many times on the stream, if there's ever World War III, I would gladly take the role of a Western propaganda streamer, 100%. I'm very pro-West, and I think I'm already sharing a lot of pro-West sentiment, which you guys know me. I like to follow logic and reason tells me the West is the better choice than Russia.
Group's most elite commanders, likely taking with them.
What's your opinion about that? Say it in chat right now. Hey, TommyKay, I'm with you. I thought war was cool and shit, but then I shot a fuel rifle. Holy smokes, the ears hurt as hell. What kind of rifle did you shoot? I shot a lot of G36 and it wasn't that bad. I kind of like the smell. I remember shooting and the smell of bullets actually smelled really good. I really like that.
Jump ship. As of now,
because I use Western logic, I should really use Russian logic, man, where I'm living in a fascist state and I should fucking be like, hey, I like Wagner, man. Can I make a picture with Prigozhin?
Is to control a force.
Yeah, my Western logic.
7,000 soldiers, and is the likely choice to take over Wagner's operations in Syria. So good. They're also actively shooting guns. What's fun? New postings in
because I think I always liked shooting guns. And I swear to God, I had the gold medal in shooting. I swear to God, but I didn't fucking get it because it cost money. That really one of my biggest mistakes in life, man. Imagine I could show you my gold medal in shooting. I will fucking shit you guys all the time. I think I was only good at shooting, not because I was a great soldier or something, because I was just competitive. I was a competitive guy my whole life in video games, and like in Call of Duty, I tried to be the best. So when we were shooting in the army, I was like, bro, I gotta be rank 1, man.
Like Wagner, Redut has begun recruiting from high security prisons.
I miss shooting. I want to go to shooting range. Maybe I can stream there. I'm planning more IRL streams in the future, and I would not mind to ask a German shooting range if I could stream there, but I probably am not allowed to. But when I'm healthy again, next week, we're going to have an RL stream. I'm going to have an RL stream about history in my city. There's a lot of history about World War II. I will show you guys.
Entry that Russia officially expects its
stay
PMCs
excited
to follow.
For
Unlike
RL
Wagner,
streams.
Radat also appears to be recruiting women into its so-called Boers battalion to serve as snipers and drone
Isn't Boers Czechnian for wolf?
operators. Finally, they've started to gain a reputation of their own for the same sorts of war crimes Wagner has been accused of, including torture of military veterans and civilians in Ukraine's far eastern reaches. Although expert opinions vary on just how directly Radat is controlled by the Russian Ministry of Defense,
you know how TommyKay knows it's Friday, man? It's loud outside.
The thumb of Russian military intelligence. If they can establish themselves as a low-drama, high-effectiveness second iteration of what the Wagner Group was supposed to be, then they'll likely find work in Ukraine, Africa, and elsewhere for years to come.
What's the next one? Patriot. Look at these guys, man. This is like when I was a kid and I played too much soft air, bro. Should you just play Counter-Strike a bit, get a nice wife, once in a while go to the restaurant, have a nice life? No. Dimitri is like, I will join Patriot. And then we're gonna paint our armored vehicle blue.
From Radat, we move over to Patriot.
And they all have weapons from Battlefield Vietnam, bro.
Organization that maintains its own close
Why do you talk
ties
yourself in the third person? Because I'm a legend, man.
with the Russian MOD and Military Intelligence Service. Unlike Wagner, Patriot is believed to be under the direct influence of Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, who some sources have described as owning
Dude, that's a filter. He's using a filter there, man.
the organization outright. As such, Patriot has been a crucial part of the protracted power struggle between Shoigu and Yevgeny Prigozhin, although that's a struggle that Prigozhin appears to have rather decisively lost. Unlike Wagner or Radat, Patriot is believed to comprise a handful of sub-entities clustered together under the...
Dude, they look like a bunch of American rednecks. Look at that guy. And they're just fucking meeting every Sunday, just having some nice little war games, man.
Patriot label mostly for ease of organization. Compared to other Russian...
I might just be arrogant, man, but they don't look very organized. I feel like if a real war happens, World War III, I think a professional army that has discipline and war doctrines is gonna crush this shit. And they might be good warriors, but they seem very without cohesion. I feel like they don't seem like they will dwell well against an educated army.
Clustered together under the Patriot label mostly for ease of organization. Compared to other Russian PMCs, Patriot has long taken the best and brightest of the Russian military into its ranks, able to vastly outbid most other PMCs
they just had to do the dirty work.
the most experienced and the most qualified troops. That includes
they have the money, so they do this to get paid.
Intelligence analysts and special operations soldiers who can carry out asymmetrical, unconventional warfare.
Dude, I'm the weirdest guy in the world. I always fantasize. I have crazy ADHD. I just had this idea. Imagine you could make a World Cup where you... Bro, I just had the craziest idea, man. Imagine you have a World Cup and you take like a map of like, I don't know, you fucking make it 10 square miles or square kilometers, right? And there's like a house here and some trees here. And you have... randomly chosen 10 US Marines versus 10 Chinese Marines. You have 10 German soldiers versus 10 Italian soldiers. And they have fake guns, it doesn't kill you, and they fight each other. And then you have like a World Cup, bro. And everything is televised on TommyKay Live. There's drones, man. Oh, looks like Giovanni is going for the headshot. Oh, wow. And you just look who has the best army in the world, man. I think that would be mad interesting. Like airsoft? No, but with real army, not with fucking James. That would be fucking fun to watch, man.
As well as intelligence gathering and even delicate sabotage operations that have generally proven to be beyond the Wagner Group's capabilities. As such, they extend Wagner's same veneer of plausible deniability for Russia.
Israel will win that?
Over Patriot's
I wonder who will win that. I really wonder.
Making themselves indispensable for operations that require discretion
have the biggest win rate?
and a relatively lighter touch. Around the world, Patriot has generally stayed far less visible than Wagner, but they haven't avoided the spotlight entirely. Sporting a logo that harkens back to Ivan the Terrible's personal...
Yeah, I mean, look at that logo, man. Are we the bad guys?
Guard Corps and Death Squad, Patriot is thought to have thousands of employees, with many of them making well over triple what a person
like
might
an edgy
expect to
Discord
make
picture from a HOI4 player.
They're also believed to have the option...
Yeah, you see what I just said. You have this thing and you do 10 versus 10. But again, no hobby people, but real soldiers. I would watch the shit. You could make a lot of money on that.
Commissions on their work, which can range from direct action to intellect.
Because I always think, I don't know much, but I think real war like that is a lot about patience. It's a lot about camping. It's not about play the hero. It's a lot about wait. Oh, someone is going into my crosshair. Adios, man.
exercises like propaganda and negotiation, as well as cyber intelligence and cybercrime. Patriot is known to have operated in Syria for some time, alongside...
It would probably also be good for military. Yeah, you could train a lot of stuff. Yeah.
And Radat in guarding the facilities of oligarch Gennady Timchenko, who we mentioned a moment ago. They've also done a reconnaissance work in the country, according to pro-Russian military bloggers, and identified Russians who went to fight with the Islamic State and other terrorist organizations in order to prevent their return to Russia proper. In Africa.
Sorry, I'm just thinking Lisa will be sitting next to me. Lisa, beautiful little Lisa who lives in the same world. She would just say, you know what, Tommy? Look at all those organizations. It's all men that have no girlfriends. That's what Lisa will say.
They've deployed to Sudan, Gabon, and the Central African Republic, where they've been alleged to have...
Like, there's this thing now. Every time we hear a car honking outside the window, my kid, he goes, man. And Lisa always says, yes, you can be sure a guy, someone honking is always a man.
Participated in the murder of three journalists,
right?
Tracking
then I slap her so she shuts up.
In the area.
It's a joke. It's a joke, Twitch admin.
They've just deployed during the Battle of Volodar in Ukraine's Donetsk Oblast. What they've done after the fall of the Wagner Group is tough to say, possibly because the elimination of direct competition between Sergei Shoigu and Yevgeny Prigozhin may have allowed Patriot to get back to their lower profile work instead of...
If you hear car crash though, it's always a woman.
Participating in power squabbles. But undoubtedly,
he said that
they remain a dominant force inside Russia's PMC ecosystem.
I don't know, that picture doesn't scare me. I don't know.
Next up, we've got to discuss the Sabotage Assault Reconnaissance Group, better known as Rasich. Unlike Wagner, Radat or Patriot, each of...
Isn't that a really Nazi symbol? Why is everything in Russia so Nazi, man? You're going to fucking Ukraine to denazify it, yet your Wagner Group is made by SS, Uli Alto? These people are like the Black Sun?
Whom espouses ideology only after their primary objective as mercenaries.
Symbol, but I'm very sure this symbol often is very often used in National Socialistic...
unit with deep ties to Russia's far right. Often described quite accurately as a neo-Nazi organization, the Rasich Group traces its history back to 2009. The group was founded by a neo-Nazi named Alexei Milkhakov, who first captured public attention when...
Then again, right? Lisa will say, look at that guy. That guy probably didn't have the best childhood, and then girls didn't want to date him a lot, so he fucking goes and makes a fucking PMC.
He filmed and posted himself torturing and decapitating a puppy. And no, we didn't misspeak there. That is something that happened.
Jesus Christ. Damn. Schwarze Sonne. Is the sun real, symbolizing originating in... it originates... You guys said Slavic, but it says originated in Nazi Germany. And later employed by neo-Nazis all across the world.
Has ties...
There's a different one in Slavic? Oh, okay.
Military leader of the Wagner Group.
That wasn't the same one?
Neo-Nazi named Dmitry Atkin, and he picked...
Yeah, that's Mr. Nazi right here, bro.
Experience alongside Atkin in Russia's air assault forces.
He was in an airplane, right? He's also dead.
In the following years, his growing organization picked up recruits from Russia and Europe, providing them combat training as a private unit for hire. They first arrived on the scene in Ukraine in 2014, when they were a part of an ongoing Russian effort to support separatist organizations in Ukraine's far east.
To be honest, they had cool symbols. I asked this question once before in chat. Go to Paint and paint me your logo for your PMC. It's quite hard to do, to make a nice looking logo. The Skyrim dragon symbol.
The Rasich Group was present at battles over each of these blast's respective airports, and they carried out sabotage behind enemy lines, as well as participating in skirmishes and larger battles alongside other pro-Russian forces. In September of that year, they gained international
notoriety. Honey Badger is good. I like that. Honey Badger is a great idea.
Destroying a Ukrainian military convoy and then posing for pictures while surrounded by the dead. They remained at work in Ukraine until June 2015, when they left amidst a tiff with the leader of the self-proclaimed Luhansk People's Republic, and for a while they returned to their camps, conducting firearms training, tactical drills, and survival skills courses. Even among Russia's PMCs, the Rasich Group has earned an especially nasty reputation, mutilating and decapitating corpses and living soldiers, engaging in systemic rape and torture of civilians, and...
Dude, that is pure evil, man. These people are they're just pure evil. You don't get it.
Prisoners, civilians, and children.
We fight with our minds, man.
These actions have earned the Rasich Group little in the way of accountability inside Russia, where they operated and trained with impunity for years prior to the start of the full-scale Russia-Ukrainian war. During that time, Milkhakov and other prominent Rasich members popped up now and again in Syria, including once in reports that they'd been involved in the torture and dismemberment of a Syrian prisoner. But in 2021,
you don't even capture by these guys, man.
Congregate on Russian territory around Ukraine's Donbass region in
He made that PMC when he was 22. Jesus. That guy is pure evil, man. In a different world, he's just a serial killer, right? But in Russia, he has a good job.
Indicators being that they seem to intend on causing trouble around the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv. When the Russian invasion of Ukraine kicked off, Kharkiv Oblast is precisely where the Rasik group went, and in the following months, their fighters were condemned internationally and sanctioned by the US for, quote, special cruelty. In their
Thank you for 1 year.
Thank you, hostilities in and around
Tier 2, man. Thank you. That fucking guy, is he still alive? He is still alive?
Ukrainian city of Izium, where after the city's eventual
still a bit sick, guys.
Liberation, many bodies in mass graves showed signs of torture. In 2023, Rasik group fighters posted a video to their Telegram channel in which they beheaded a captured Ukrainian soldier, while for much of the year they've been known to be active in and around Robotyne, one of the most embattled Ukrainian positions of the entire war. Also, during the war, they've stirred the pot online, at one point asking their Telegram followers for intelligence related to border posts and military installations in the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, which are members of NATO and would trigger a massive response if attacked. Despite these provocations, the Rasik group still appears to be functionally immune from repercussions when their leaders return to Russia. Instead, they appear to be something of a useful evil for the Russian MOD, enthusiastic in their mission to sow death and destruction across Ukraine while disinterested in taking part in any political battles or power struggles against the oligarchs.
They just want to kill puppies, bro.
Class. They still crowdfund their operations relatively frequently, and at present they're believed to be taking part in reconnaissance and sabotage operations as part of the ongoing war.
They sound fucked up. They sound fucked,
they fit
man.
neatly.
They're like the Night Lords.
Russian military apparatus. While
that's a lot of unloved boys, man. Their moms did not love them.
Openly
and they probably
parading themselves
dads.
around as neo-Nazis, continually providing evidence against Russia's own claim.
That's what I never understand. You're such a fan of Nazi Germany, man, and the Nazis will fucking kill you first. The Russian Imperial Movement. Oh, that sounds
And
quite
if the
forced.
Rasik group wasn't bad enough, they're joined on the ideological side of Russia's PMC network by the Russian Imperial Movement, or the RIM. First founded in 2002, the RIM takes a somewhat different tone than a
Dude, Russia is such a full-on nation, I swear to God.
They're virulent white supremacists and supporters of Tsarist Russian ethno-nationalism. At first, the RIM was largely a political organization under its founder, Stanislav Vorobayev, but they've since become best known for their armed wing, the so-called Imperial Legion. The RIM got its military start.
This is straight up HOI4. These people play too much HOI4. What should I name my infantry today? Imperial Legion?
Years between 2002 and 2010.
This is full HOI4 players, man.
A group of recruits engaged in martial arts and paramilitary training, while their political affiliates were active in far-right Russian circles. But in 2014, the RIM started organizing its own training centers to prepare recruits of service in pro-Russian militias in Ukraine. As the RIM told it at the time, their militarization was born of a desire to rid purported Russian territory of an anti-Russia regime, and since quite literally the day after Russia annexed the Ukrainian peninsula of Crimea,
if these people would have been born in the West, they would have been TNO mothers.
In the conflict in Ukraine's Donbass region.
There were so many Nazis in Russia.
Hey man,
we gotta denazify Ukraine, right?
To get to the Donbass, all trained up, ready to fight. And the RIM's own Imperial Legion took an active role in the fighting in Ukraine through at least 2016. After the RIM pulled out of the conflict, they turned their attention to a now thriving training academy known as Partisan. By 2017, hundreds of recruits were passing through Partisan at regular intervals while positioning themselves in a prominent place in the Russian ethno-nationalist movement. Their influence expanded from Russia to post-Soviet states to Europe and even the US, holding conferences attended by global neo-Nazis and white supremacists.
You don't have to go far to fight Nazis. I mean, I'm from Saxony, bro. They're gonna lead this country this year. But I googled that the Nazis, if they win in my state, they're gonna lower the taxes. So I might just fucking go, heil auf die, Alter. This is why it is key to escape HOI4 when you can. Get well soon, Thomas. Thank you, bye.
The RIM even organized a visit to the US and networked with American white supremacists in furtherance of their mutual goals. As Russia began to ramp itself up toward the start of full-scale hostilities in Ukraine,
not many people will get that.
The RIM began deploying its fighters abroad, first to Syria in 2019 and then to Libya, where they showed up in support of breakaway warlord Khalifa Haftar
I know his daughter.
in the civil war there. By 2020, they'd been designated as a terrorist organization by the United States, and when Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine kicked off, RIM-trained fighters have appeared across the conflict. The RM's own Imperial Legion has operated on the front lines of the war, but they've also occupied another, more unique role as a PMC, the continued large-scale training of new recruits through partisan even through 2023. They've become known for their top-tier performances in inter-organization military contests and shooting competitions.
Oh, they do these contests I was talking about. Well, these guys look scary. They're so far the scariest, in my opinion.
Stand out for their abundance of heavy weaponry, armored vehicles, and advanced and highly varied small arms. Rather than being responsible for operations abroad...
I think freedom of speech, and I will... Can you try again in English? What?
Which Russia hopes to evade responsibility. Partisan and the RAM appear to be focused on work at home that Russia doesn't want to claim as their own. The training of ideologically extreme military recruits who can go on, take up arms, and cause chaos as partisans in Ukraine.
Good, the boys after a long night of vodka, bro. PMC Gazprom. Wait, Gazprom has their own fucking PMC? I thought they're called Real Madrid.
And finally, we move on to one of the newest entries in Russia's PMC architecture. The company's formed on behalf of Russian state gas company Gazprom. At present, Gazprom is believed to run two primary PMCs of their own. A battalion called Fackel, meaning torch, and a battalion...
Why do they always use German words? This is all German shit.
...called Potok, or Stream. Some reports suggest that they've got a third group, Plamya, or Flame, although that unit's status is far hazier at present. Together, Fackel and Potok maintain murky links with the Radat PMC that we mentioned before, with some analysts believing that they've been integrated into
Fackel
Radat,
is also
while
Russian?
others believe that Radat is fully or partially responsible for their recruitment drives, but doesn't hold powers of oversight over them.
Fackel and Potok
recruit their fighters primarily from within the Gazprom organization itself, which was estimated in 2018 to have no fewer than 450,000 employees around the world. Between Gazprom's massive numbers of personnel and their ability to draw in money, with revenues of nearly $90 billion estimated in 2020, Gazprom is one of the world's largest companies. With that money, they can pay their mercenaries very well, while keeping their paramilitary protection basically in-house and sending their employees back to work in their day jobs when they rotate out of employment with Fackel and Potok. It's a pretty sweet gig for military veterans and Russian fans of first-person shooters.
That's some Cyberpunk shit right here, man. That's Arasaka, bro.
Being relatively unlikely to deploy into active combat and then go back to work for one of the richest companies on the globe. But that being said, it's also not unheard of for Fackel and Potok troops to deploy to Ukraine, where at least one unit was involved in the protracted fighting in and around the city of Bakhmut in 2023. In practice, Gazprom workers who've spoken to Western sources have indicated that recruitment into these two groups has been somewhat less of a matter of volunteering and more of a matter of taking instructions from one's employer. In one account provided to the Financial Times, a Gazprom security manager at one installation in central Russia gathered his employees and stated that at least 2 men among them would have to volunteer for combat in exchange for pay raises, equipment, and a holiday upon their return. In another account from Siberia, Gazprom employees were asked one by one to volunteer in exchange for 1 million rubles, enough to produce a major change in their circumstances. Since that time, Gazprom recruitment methods may have changed. Those stories came from a time when Russia was desperate to find bodies willing to serve in and around Bakhmut while the war wasn't settled into more stalemate. Likely indicates that Fackel and Potok are not simply small bands of fighters anymore, and that at least a portion of their current soldiers have picked up valuable combat experience. It probably shouldn't be a surprise that for an organization like these two, most of their work for their corporate benefactor basically comes down to guard duty, defending fixed assets like oil refineries and drilling fields in areas where they might be attacked, sabotaged, or otherwise threatened.
I hated that gun. I had it as a software gun. The British thing.
West, Exxon, and BP
SA-80 from Britain
at their disposal. But it's not just Gazprom's foreign assets.
No, L982, yes. The it starts with L, I remember.
That need guarding. The economic and military tensions of the Russian invasion
Something
of
with
Ukraine
L, yeah.
A cutthroat faction
L85A1,
in the ranks of
just
Russia's
L.
elite power players, and corporate sabotage, theft, and even skirmishes between rival oligarchs.
How much you know about German history?
All becoming
Shut up,
an
Muppet.
increasingly common part of the
down.
game. Gazprom in particular is very important to lock down from that kind of interference. After all, the Russian state and war effort are both deeply dependent on the company, as is Vladimir Putin and his personal power base. Gazprom CEO Alexei Miller has his own fair share of enemies. Now deceased Wagner head Yevgeny Prigozhin and several surviving members of Putin's private inner circle. Fackel and Potok's existence represents a potentially growing shift inside Russia's PMC network. Gazprom is opting into competition in a tight market, fighting for a limited number of recruits and arms alongside all the other PMCs in the Russian military. They've got to build a full training and support infrastructure in order to make their mercenary wing function.
I'm getting a bit fucking weak here.
Gazprom's willingness to pay out indicates that the deterrence and protection that they provide is worth the cost, and that in turn indicates that Gazprom
like fucking 50, man. What
don't anticipate Russia's
probably retired veteran or some
getting
shit.
any less venomous anytime soon.
I mean, what else are you gonna do?
They're making a long-term investment into placing a military unit directly under their own control in anticipation that one day they'll be thankful that they had Fakhl and Potok at their disposal.
Trouble with PMCs. Well, they can march to Moscow if you're not careful. Thank you, Charles Shredman. Thank you.
With each passing day, Russia's use of paramilitary groups seems to be growing even despite the decline of Wagner. Analysts and onlookers around the world have rightly questioned whether we're looking at the new normal here. We should emphasize...
Here's TommyKay's opinion. PMCs in Russia seem like pump and dump scams. They seem like crypto. You have a rich, intelligent person like Prigozhin, and he's like, I'm making a PMC. You then get all the idiots that will die for you because they have no opportunities, they don't make a lot of money, you even call fucking conscript prisoners, and you have this beautiful system of money making, man, where you're like, hey, Putin, you want to use my PMC? Yes, here's a shit ton of money. Thank you. It seems a bit like
that we've only discussed a fraction of the Russian
a bit of a scam from rich guys,
with more and more seeming to crop up by the day.
They make a lot of money from this shit.
Even despite the continued rise of PMCs in the Russian strategic outlook, we've still got a key question to ask here: are PMCs,
like the entire U.S. military, right? I'm joking.
Really worth it? One reason
they're
why
worth it for the one that owns them, right?
Is fairly clear to see. For anyone who's watched the Russia-Ukrainian war with any level of interest in 2023, mercenaries get paid, and when mercenaries get paid, they're under control until they're not.
So
no matter what way you slice it,
game.
The Wagner Group's 2023 attempt to capture senior Russian military...
He looks so weird, man. Bro.
...of defense officials and their subsequent march on Moscow was a valuable reminder to Vladimir Putin and his advisors that PMCs are not...
Didn't we all wish, Chad, you and me, that he fucking went through? Didn't we all just... I had like 3K viewers, right? And I was like, bro, what's gonna happen here tonight? It was 2 a.m. I had to go to sleep. Man, that would have been so interesting.
As reliable as they claim. They are their own entities, their own dream groups. And if they're allowed to amass enough military power, then it might be a mistake.
At least he gave us dank memes.
What that means for Russia's current PMCs, we can't say for sure, although it's clear that Russia's efforts to shut down Wagner haven't led to the shutdown of all PMCs.
I hope he and Putin will kill each other.
If anything, it's created a vacuum for those other PMCs
actually
to grow
trucking
stronger.
to Moscow IRL.
How strong
he pulled Game of Freezes Season 8 on us.
It's likely going to be a metric that Russia watches a whole lot closer in the years to come. And then there's the capacity for division and even violence between the PMCs themselves. That's a phenomenon that has already been seen around the devastated Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, where members of various PMCs, including Wagner, engaged in both pissing contests about whose guns were better and very real disputes about how military engagements were handled. In what is already becoming a lawless world of private paramilitaries, it's not inconceivable that an exception...
There's a PMC in Russia called Vetaren, and they have this symbol. Did Grisha make that?
Early cutthroat environment could develop between the PMCs. Every new Russian demand for a force of 300 to guard a diamond mine might lead to infighting brawls or even targeted kidnapping or assassination between paramilitaries hunting for that contract. And if that sort of violence goes on long enough, then it's entirely possible that individual PMCs might choose to throw...
I believe Putin would have beaten Prigozhin in an MMA fight. I believe that. Oh, that's a great question. Who would have won that? Putin knew some judo and shit, man. I think he would have beaten him in an MMA fight.
If that happens on the soil of one of Russia's foreign partners, then that partner isn't going to be happy.
Prigo's probably heavier.
If it happens on the streets of Moscow or St. Petersburg,
but Putin knows some shit, I think.
Could be even more dire. So as we conclude today's video, with us left to ask the final
Putin has a judo black belt? Oh, even a black belt.
If Russia decides that PMCs are worth their continued trouble, and that does seem to be Russia's current verdict, then what does that PMC
depends if it's Putin or one of his doubles
look like? Does the task of maintaining Russia's hegemony eventually turn into a bidding war between bounty hunters, with each job auctioned off to whichever freelancer secures that day's contract? Does one group start making
just about money, man,
and
this whole PMC shit,
pushing others out of the market and swelling their ranks? Do PMCs become a sort of fashionable thing to have among Russia's class of oligarchs, as important as a yacht or a mansion? Or do they become closer and closer to Russian military?
This guy talks so much, maybe it's kind of his job. Who knows?
Extensions of the Russian state's will, so Vladimir Putin can better keep them in check. How Russia's flirtation with PMCs eventually shakes out We simply won't know until we see it happen. In fact, we might not see it at all. After all, the entire point of their existence is to keep these Russian internal matters hidden from view and ensure that Russia projects its global influence in ways that look as if it was never there. But whatever happens next, however it goes, Russia's PMC Legion doesn't look like it's about to start shrinking. By the day, it grows larger and larger still, even as Russia's traditional influence across the world seems to be diminishing. Take that to its logical conclusion, and PMC Legion may eventually become PMC Nation. We're just gonna have to wait and find out.
What are you still doing here, mate? Jeez! Well, if you want to see more, click these videos. Have fun. Looking good, boy.